This is the Louis T. Network.
In the Lab Room.
Welcome, you are in the Lab Room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Tuesday edition of In the Lab Room. Monday Night Football. What a joke this game was. And I was so excited, not for the game itself, but really I just wanted to see what Josh Freeman was going to do. And I had been talking about Josh Freeman ad nauseum, and I talked about how the Vikings needed to expedite the process of getting him in the game. And here it is. Josh Freeman starting Monday Night Football, Giant Stadium, bad football team in the Giants taking on a bad football team in the Minnesota Vikings. I expected Josh Freeman. Look, and this is what I said. I said, keep it simple. Find about 20 to 25 passing plays that he's comfortable with. Rotate in runs, of course, with Adrian Peterson. And that should be enough to get it done against this Giants football team. What I didn't expect them to do was pick out 7 plays that they like. None of which featured, 4 receivers out on routes. They wanted to max protect. I get it. I look, you want to keep this guy upright, give him every opportunity to play well in this game. See what's going on down the field, make easy reads, make easy, simple throws, get confidence, and then you can start to open up the playbook a little bit. I get it. I understand, but okay, before I get too far and too deep into it, Minnesota Vikings on the road taking on the New York Football Giants. 0-6 Giants taking on 1-4 Minnesota. And let me just dive back into where I was. I expected them to give him more of the playbook. This was an atrocity, okay? I'm seeing max protect 2-man routes. And it was funny because John Gruden talked about this in the telecast, about him sprinting out and them having a 2-route combination on the right side and them running the exact same play to the left. It didn't work on the right side, mind you. So they say, okay, it didn't work that way. Let's run it the other way. Maybe they won't know we're running it the other way. And Josh Freeman was airmailing, and this was the frustrating part. Okay, yeah, so you don't have a lot of the playbook. You haven't been there that long. Okay, yeah, I get it. And I think what this game reminded me, and sometimes as fans, we don't realize, because we're not there, we're not putting in the work, how hard it is, how much time and effort needs to be put into learning a playbook. And we know this stuff is complicated. It's not easy. But I didn't realize that him being there 2 weeks would only allow him to run 7 plays. Okay? I thought that him being there 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, having a bye week, that he'd be able to run a little bit more of the offense. He would have been able to ingest a lot more of what the Vikings wanted to do offensively. And so by them not calling a mixture of plays, by them not switching up what they were doing on the offensive front, it made it easy on the Giants to just say, hey, you guys stink just like we do. We're putting 9 in the box, man-to-man coverage on the outside, deal with it. And so they were putting 8 in the box, 1 single high safety, man-to-man on the outside, 2-man route, have at it, have fun. You're not running Adrian Peterson tonight, though. And so they made Josh Freeman beat them. And the frustrating part about what I saw was, okay, fine, you don't have a lot of plays at your disposal. But the ones that they are running, guys are getting open. Hit them. Throw the football to guys, complete passes, move the sticks. Create offense for this Vikings team. Give Adrian Peterson space and relief. That's why you're here, to give Adrian Peterson the ability to have space to work. By you not completing passes, by you going 3 and out, by you looking like the guy that the Buccaneers released for a good reason, you're making it harder on Adrian Peterson. If they wanted Adrian Peterson to struggle against 8 and 9-man fronts, they could have kept Matt Castle or Christian Ponder in the game. But it's still early. this is his first start in Minnesota, and so I'm going to cut him some slack, but that doesn't matter. You having limited knowledge of the playbook has nothing to do with your accuracy. Guys were open, okay? And you were just missing guys. And what frustrated me, what aggravated me was after every incompletion, they would take the pan shot and put it back on Josh. And Josh would be, oh, he would clap his Josh would, oh man, we this close. No, you're not close, Josh. You're not close. What are you clapping your hands for? What are you looking like? Oh, I almost had it. This isn't pee-wee football. Okay, this isn't middle school football. You're not in high school. You're not. Almost doesn't count. Brandy, almost doesn't count. So, what are you? Oh man, I almost had it. Get out of here with that, Josh, man. You gotta, come on, man, pick it up. So, it was tough to watch. All I could do was laugh. And I wanted to see so much more from Josh because I wanted him to validate what everybody was saying in Tampa Bay that, hey, Greg Schiano made a mistake. And look, Josh Freeman was suited for Tampa Bay. He's a guy with a strong arm that likes to chuck it up to big receivers. And in Tampa Bay, he had big receivers. So frustrating to see him be exiled out of Tampa Bay, and now he's in Minnesota. He's got to get it done, though. There's no excuse for his performance in this game against the Giants. It was abysmal. It was hard to watch. You know it's bad when Mike Tirico, the play-by-play analyst for the game, says himself in these exact words, man, these teams are bad. And that's the type of game it was. It was 3-and-out punt. 3-and-out punt, your turn, 3-and-out punt, your turn, 3-and-out punt, your turn, 3-and-out punt. Almost threw a pick, punt. Almost threw a pick, punt. Fumble, your turn, fumble. Your turn, 3-and-out and punt. It was just bad football on top of bad football. Let's get to the Giants now because they're not absolved. Even though they won this game, they're not absolved from the bad football in this game. Eli Manning stunk it up. He should have threw a pick six. It was funny because Josh Sherrills, or Marcus Sherrills, excuse me, was the hero early in the game. Giants go down the field. They get a field goal early in the game, and they're up 3-0. And Vikings come right back with a punt return. Marcus Sherrills, 86 yards, touchdown. Giants have had struggles on special teams all season long. They gave up a touchdown on a punt to Dexter McCluster earlier in the season. They've had their struggles on special teams. And so this kind of fell in line with all of the struggles that they've had on special teams, allowing Marcus Sherrills to take it to the house. And so the Vikings are up 7-3, and you're thinking, okay, now, you know, they've got a little bit of house money to play with. Do the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see if they can build off of that. You look at it from the Giants' perspective. They give that up, and you're thinking, okay, now Eli needs to settle in and you know, move the football. And they got stuck on 3 for a while. They end up scoring a touchdown. Again, this was not a good football game, and Marcus Sherrills had an opportunity for a pick six. Giants are up 7-10 in the game. Marcus Sherrills has a chance to really change the complexion. It was 10-7 for about 3/4 of football. I mean, the Giants were struggling, so were the Vikings, and Marcus Sherrills has an opportunity to really do something big here. It hits him right in the chest. I mean, you can't ask. Eli throws about 1 or 2 of these every game, it seems like this season, where you're just like, okay, yeah, that's a pick six, or yeah, that's a bad decision. That should be picked off. And this was that pass in this game. And Marcus Sherrills, bless his heart, he can't catch. It hits him right in the chest, bounces off his chest plate, hits the ground. He follows that blunder up with a muff on the punt return. No one touches him. He falls down, akin to that Robert Griffin III play against Detroit earlier in the season, where he falls down, no one touches him, ball squirts out, it's recovered by the opposing team. In this case, it's the Giants who scoop it up, and they're at like and the Giants needed this because they could not score on their own in this football game. They needed assistance, and the Vikings were more than willing to help them out. This ball stops it around the 3-yard line. They end up running it in for a touchdown with Peyton Hillis, and they go up 17-7. And at this point, you know the game is over with. I honestly had thoughts of turning this game off. I tried to go elsewhere. It was so bad. I went to some preseason basketball. There is no excuse to be watching preseason basketball when there is NFL action on the tube. But this game was so bad, I was running from it, and I ended up running in circles coming back to the game because the TV programming around cable television was so bad on Monday that I ended up running a lap and coming back to some more bad football. They turn it over again, do the Vikings. Giants score another touchdown, salt this game away. They get it done in this game. I think it was 24-10. You know what? The score is irrelevant. Two bad football teams playing some extremely bad football. Somebody had to win. In this case, it ended up being the home team. The New York Giants get off the schneid. They are now 1-6 on the season. They're a bad football team, folks. They are a bad football team. This win isn't going to jumpstart the Giants. Everyone's talking about how the Giants are a team that can get hot. Yeah, those teams were actually good. Those teams started out the season 6-2, fell off in the middle of the season, and got hot again. This isn't that. This Giants team stinks, okay? And they're going to continue to stink for the remainder of the season. Meanwhile, the Vikings, man, I tell you what, this is as bad as it gets, but I tell you, there is a small ray of hope, and that is that Josh Freeman will get better over time with more understanding of the playbook, with more time to get his... you know what? I don't even want to blame this on timing because he was missing guys, not because he was slightly behind or he anticipated a guy doing this and they did that, or he was just slightly in front of the guy and maybe a little bit of extra time after practice will iron all of those wrinkles out. No, he was high. He was way behind. He was too far. He wasn't close. And so that's what's alarming to me is that he wasn't close. He was just inaccurate. So he's got to be better. And that's the small ray of hope that you have if you're a Vikings fan, is that he'll get better with time, with more understanding of what the Vikings are going to ask him to do in this playbook, in this offense. He'll get better. That's all you can hope, because if he gets any worse, then you got to draft a quarterback in Minnesota. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This was a terrible performance from both teams. It was a shame. It was a travesty that we had to watch this. Hopefully, it doesn't get any worse than this on Monday Night Football for all of our sakes, because this game was pathetic. Vikings go to 1-5 on the season. Giants go to 1-6 on the season. Don't feed me any more football that looks anything, that resembles anything like that. So, you know what time it is. Absolutely. Let's tack on this quick extra point. So, looking around the league, a lot of things transpired. Broncos dropped their first one of the season. They're now 6-1. Don't overreact if you're a Denver Broncos fan. There are some chinks in that armor. There are definitely some cracks in that armor if you are the Denver Broncos. But you still have Peyton Manning. You still have the most explosive offense in the National Football League. And that's not debatable. It's not even close. You're fine. You ran into a buzzsaw called the Indianapolis Colts. That's a good football team. I think that needs to be the takeaway from that game. Not that the Denver Broncos aren't invincible, because we knew that at some point they could slip up. And we saw them almost slip up against Dallas. It could happen, and it did happen. But what you need to take away from that game is that the Indianapolis Colts are for real, and they're not going away, and they're going to be a good football team this season, that if they get some of their things ironed out, because this Reggie Wayne injury is going to affect them dramatically as this season progresses. If they can find a way around that, if they can find a way to circumvent that injury, this team is going to be dangerous. And that's what you need to take away from that game. Not that the Denver Broncos are no longer undefeated and that they're going to find a way to mess this season up. That's what you need to take away from this game. Kansas City, only unbeaten team left in the National Football League. Who would have thought that when this season first got underway? So a lot of different storylines around the league. Big win for the Cincinnati Bengals on the road against Detroit. That was a huge win for the Cincinnati Bengals. Bears lose on the road. So do the Miami Dolphins at home. They lose. A couple of teams had some bad losses in week number 7. And a lot of good things happened, though. It was some good football. All in all, there was some good football in week number 7 of the National Football League. I struggled in my Pick'em Weekly, and we'll talk about that on the Wednesday edition of In the Lab Room. I won my challenge versus Flash, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday as well. So a lot of good things happened over the weekend for me, but it was not a pretty weekend in the National Football League as far as prognosticating goes. Really struggled, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. So I'll see you back here on Wednesday. You know how this goes. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I'll see you back here on Wednesday when I go over my Pick'em Weekly, give you the Soul Survivor, and talk about a few other topics around the league. See you on Wednesday. Like the content? Want more? Sub up.
In the Lab Room.